Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, let's give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kamadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us the truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Aqua that may listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Akwai. I'm back in here with another quick lesson. And for today's lesson, I'm going to be doing a continuation of Israelite customs in West Africa, right? And for this one, I saw was on the country of Guinea, which is I think close to Liberia. It's along the west coast essentially. You can pull up a map and check it out. I'm going to be reading a little bit of this book here. It's called The Hebrew Heritage of Black Africa, right? So I'm just making some highlights and bringing out a couple points. And as always, Lord's will, Yahweh Ratazah, this video will be edifying, right? So what I want to do is read a little bit on the country of Guinea, right? So here it says on page 40, it says the headline is Guinea, and it reads the following. The observations of J. Leighton Wilson are especially worthy of our attention for any study of this region. The reason is because he was a missionary in the Guinean area for about 18 years. His book, Western Africa, its history, condition, and prospects, was published in 1856, before Christianity had an opportunity to make an impact upon the culture and religion of the region, right? Because I know a lot of our people are caught up into Christianity, right? And that is something that was used as a guise to actually come into these different African nations, right? Under I think it was King Leopold. He used that so-called Christianity to be able to come in sweetly, right? Like the scriptures talk about, a man may speak sweetly with his lips, but imagine how to throw thee into a pit, right? But that's not really the point of this lesson. As a matter of fact, before I ramble on too much, let me just get a quick precept. One second. Okay, this is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 64, and it reads, And the Lord Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone, right? And eventually, after this 1856, after like about 1900s, that's when you see the popularity with our people worshiping Christianity, right? And so-called white Jesus, right? So moving on back to page 40, it says in the preface of his book, he says that the great body of the book is a result of my own observations and knowledge, right? So it says here, he records in his book that there are many obvious traces of Judaism both in northern and southern Guinea, right? And below here it says, elsewhere in his book, Bosman says Negroes are still retain several laws and customs which favor of Judaism, right? So essentially Israelite customs, as their marrying of their brother's wife after his death, and several more. They seem the same in effect, as well as names of which here in Guinea are several which occur in the Old Testament, right? So this was one of the customs that this missionary had found in the Guinean area, right? So let's cover that real quick. So on my notes here, I put in Levirate marriage, because that's what it's commonly known as. So I'm just going to type in Levirate in the etymology. Okay, so Levirate in the etymology it says a custom of which the male next of kin of a dead man was bound to marry his widow. So it says brother-in-law, husband's brother, right? So that's essentially what happens, right? And you can see the root word in here is Levi, right? I thought that was also very interesting. So let's get the law in regards to this. Okay, so let's go down to verse 5. Okay, I want to read it in the NLT. Okay, so Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 5, because this practice is indeed biblical and part of our customs, right? So it says, if two brothers are living together on the same property and one of them dies without a son, so not with in any next of kin, without a son, his widow may not be able, Salakia, his widow may not be married to anyone from outside the family. Instead, her husband's brother should marry her and have intercourse with her to fulfill the duties of the brother-in-law. Verse 6, the first son she bears to him will be considered the son of the dead brother, right? So that his name will not be forgotten in Israel, right? So that is to ensure his lineage essentially continues, right? Because he didn't have a next, he didn't have a child, before his passing, right? Verse 7, and it says, but if the man refuses, meaning the brother that's alive, to remarry his brother's widow, she must go to the town gate and say to the elders assembled there, my husband's brother refuses to preserve his brother's name. So that the deceased brother in Israel, he refuses to fulfill the duties of a brother-in-law by marrying me. Verse 8, it says, the elders of the town will summon him and will talk with him. For if he refuses and says, I don't want to marry her, the widow must walk over to him in the presence of the elders, pull his sandal off his foot, spit in his face. Then she must declare, this is what happens to a man who refuses to provide his brother with children. Verse 10, and it says, ever afterward in Israel, his family will be referred to as the family of the man whose sandal was pulled off. In the KJV it says, and his name shall be called in Israel the house of him that hath his shoe loosed, right? So this is the duty of the brother who has that other brother, and then his brother is essentially deceased. He has to take on the brother has to step up and take on that responsibility, right? And that's in the event, the deceased brother does not have a son to continue his lineage, right? So this is indeed a custom of ours, right? This is not foreign, and a bunch of our people, after they fled into the interiors of Africa, they took on and kept, I don't want to say took on, but they kept a lot of the customs in their spirit, right? In my earlier lesson, I covered the importance, the custom, I should say, that our people kept, known as the role of the high priest, and the garments, such as keeping the breastplate, of the high priest, right? And that was an Israelite custom, right? So let me get okay, this is Exodus 11 and 7, and it reads, but against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast, that ye may know how that the Lord Yahweh doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel, right? So a lot of the customs, this is what makes us different from these other nations, right? One, because we have these laws, statutes, and commandments, and because a lot of our people, think today that, for example, on the landmass of Africa, that you so-called Negroes are are the same people as quote unquote the Egyptians, the original Egyptians, the Hamites, the Cushites, because our people are so what's the word I'm looking for? They're so, I guess, carnal. You can say it carnal because they're looking strictly at skin color, and that is a consequence of living under Esau's vibration, because Esau is a carnal man, right? And because through his propaganda, a lot of our people believe that because the so-called Negroes and the so-called I'll just use Kush as an example. You so-called Kushites, you Somalians, right? Because we share a similar skin color, that we people tend to think that we're the same people, and we're not the same people. These customs, they were not given to them. These customs are only given to the Israelites. This is what makes us above the other nations, pursuant to Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6, right? And a lot of people, even to this day, believe that. Like when you look at, I'll use Black Panther as an example, and there is the scene in Black Panther when I forgot the big guy's name, but he's fighting T'Challa, right? And in the background, you can see a lot of the Hamite customs, such as the plates, the large plates in their lips, and having large plates in their ear. Like those are Hamitic customs. Those are not customs of ours. Another one was the scarification, having all these different scars that Killmonger had on his body, right? Those are not those are customs of the heathen. Those are not customs of Israelites, right? So let's get okay, this is Psalms 85, verse 11, and it reads, "Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven," right? And this is the truth of our people and who we are. And a lot of our people, even to this day in western part of Africa, continue to practice these things. I was just looking up before I actually arrived home. I was actually looking this up because another West African tribe that actually continues to practice this particular custom is the Yoruba as well. Just to show you that also these people, these Western African tribes, are also Israelites, right? And they practice a lot of these customs of the ways of our forefathers, right? These are the ancient ways, the ancient past that Jeremiah talks about, right? So anyways, I just want to conclude it here, but I'm just going to leave it at this point. Hopefully, this video was edifying and you got something out of it. You can leave a like button. Anyways, let me just say all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth. Until next time, I say Shalom.